Alright, I made that video about 5 years ago. Um, that was before I went on to um, present the experiment proposal to my professors regarding tying in gravity to angular momentum. I went on to tell them how to take that disk, just like I was showing in that video, and decrease the size of the opening, the aperture. That's what that's called. You decrease the size of the aperture to a very small opening. Now, the experiment that I was describing was spinning a very large disc of granite with a very small aperture, and then there are tubes of noble gases that you can get: hydrogen, neon, mercury. You can get them in, all of them contained within the same tube and with the same moles of the element. You know, if you're a chemist, you understand what I mean. So the experiment was, I was going to show them that with the known rotation velocity of a known mass with a known aperture, we could take the known moles of different atoms and show how rotation velocity is associated with the gravity of those atoms by just taking the tube and measuring how far we have to push it into the aperture to get the same reaction of the moles of the atoms at the opposite end of the tube. So there would be the space would, all of the atoms of the, let's say, hydrogen would condense the faster you spin the disk, and the rotation velocity would determine that dependent on which element you have. Okay? That's when they kicked me out. Alright? I also came up with an equation, formula. It's not really a formula because it's not proven. It's an equation because I can take some letters and put them together and make it say what I want it to say. You know what I mean? So my equation is the definition of a circle in calculus, which, go ahead and ask, go ask a physicist or a mathematician to tell you how to draw a circle using only calculus, and don't use Cartesian mathematics to do it. Only calculus. Okay, so some of the definitions that come into this are pi, because pi is not defined. Right? Pi is not defined in calculus, so I offered them a definition of pi equals L. Capital L is rotation velocity, MVR, mass, velocity, and radius, rotation. Okay, L times C, which is, people know that as the speed of light, but if you're a physicist, you know what C is, over time squared. Alright, so if you write out that top line, that becomes MVRC over T squared. Okay? If you rewrite that top line as VR capital MC over T squared, you get a little bit of a change in Einstein's equation. And then it negates the it goes on to do some other shit. All right, man. All right, so here's this proposition of this experiment, okay, with supporting mathematics. Right? I'm not a mathematician, and I argue that their math is broken. Okay, that's another reason why my physics professors don't like me, because I keep pointing out that I'm using your rules, but you don't like it. So your rules are broken. or you're not explaining them correctly. So whether my equation is correct, whether I understand the mathematics correctly or not, the proposition of that experiment will work. It will. And when you tie angular momentum and gravity together, physicists have a problem with that. Okay, thanks for listening to me.